Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to explore how you can support the Palestinian people. Personal actions you can take to ways to get involved politically.
Cool.
It's actually pretty inspiring.
It is. Economic strategies, political engagement, even the power of interfaith dialogue.
Interesting.
It's a multifaceted approach to creating change, I think.
It is. And sometimes these global conflicts can make you feel powerless.
Yes.
But one quote that really stopped me in my tracks was from Dr. Hatem Bazian.
Okay.
He said, "Knowledge is power, and in the case of Palestine, education is resistance." That's such a powerful way to frame it.
Yeah.
So today we're going to dive into how to become knowledgeable and turn that understanding into action.
I like it because even small actions collectively can have a huge impact.
Yeah.
History shows us that so many movements for justice started with individuals choosing to get educated and then take action, refusing to stay silent.
Exactly. And speaking of education,
Yeah.
that knowledge is power when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
It's true.
Yeah.
Dr. Mohammed Al-Hussaini, for example, says that by becoming informed about what is happening in Palestine, you empower yourself to make a difference. So understanding the nuances of the situation allows you to act in a more informed and impactful way.
Absolutely. And one thing that really drove this home for me was a story about a young Palestinian girl named Amina. She lives in Gaza and dreams of becoming a doctor, but because of the conflict, she has to walk past checkpoints and deal with constant fear just to get to school.
Oh God, terrible.
Her story just shows how crucial it is to understand the daily realities faced by Palestinians.
Yeah, that's a powerful example.
It is.
Amina's story highlights the human cost of this conflict and how it impacts access to education for so many Palestinian children.
Yeah.
It reminds us why learning about this situation on a deeper level is so important.
It does. Okay, so we've established that knowledge is key.
Right.
But where do we go from there?
Well,
What are some practical ways our listener can start supporting the Palestinian people?
another major theme, economic empowerment.
Okay.
Professor Mazen Kwamsia, a Palestinian human rights activist, talks about this.
Okay.
He says, economic boycotts are a nonviolent way to show solidarity with the Palestinian people. So it's about making conscious choices about where you spend your money.
Right. Supporting Palestinian businesses, choosing products that align with your values. It's kind of like voting with your wallet.
It is. And that kind of economic action can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It sends a message to companies and governments that consumers care about ethical sourcing and human rights.
For sure. So we're seeing how everyday choices like where we shop can actually become a form of activism.
Yeah.
But what about more traditional forms of activism? Several of the sources talk about the importance of raising your voice
Yeah,
and advocating for change.
that's right.
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, the first Palestinian American woman elected to Congress,
Right.
really emphasizes this.
Yeah.
She encourages everyone to speak out against injustice and to hold our elected officials accountable for their actions or lack thereof in supporting the Palestinian people.
I love how she frames that. It's a reminder that we all have a voice and we have a responsibility to use it,
Absolutely.
especially in a democracy.
Yeah. And there are so many ways to do that.
Right.
You can contact your representatives, participate in rallies or protests, write letters to the editor, or even just talk to your friends and family about these issues.
I like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of organized action,
Yeah.
BDS movement.
Okay.
Can you explain what that is for our listener?
Of course.
Okay.
BDS stands for Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions.
Okay.
It's a global movement that uses economic and political pressure to try and change Israeli policies harmful to Palestinians. It's a good example of how activism can take many forms. Interfaith dialogue.
Yeah. Mamar Amlusilaman has a great quote about this.
Oh, yeah.
He says, "Interfaith unity is crucial in standing in solidarity with Palestine and fighting against oppression."
Powerful.
It's about recognizing that this issue resonates with people from diverse faiths and backgrounds, and that coming together across those differences can be powerful.
It's so true, yeah.
Yeah.
Building bridges of understanding can create a broader base of support for justice and equality.
Totally.
So we've got economic action,
Right.
raising our voices, joining movements.
Right.
Are there other ways listeners can get involved?
Donating to humanitarian organizations working directly with the Palestinian people.
Okay.
It's a classic way to help, right?
That is, yeah.
But are there any organizations that are specifically mentioned?
Yes, UNRWA is mentioned quite a bit.
Yep.
That's the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East.
Mm-hmm.
They do incredible work,
Yeah.
providing essential services like education, healthcare, and social safety nets to millions of Palestinian refugees.
It's so important to support organizations like that who are directly addressing the humanitarian needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Palestine Children's Relief Fund is also highlighted.
Okay.
They focus specifically on providing medical care for children, including those who have been injured in conflict zones.
That's heartbreaking, but also incredibly important work.
It is.
Yeah.
And there's another really interesting thread,
What's that?
and it's about supporting Palestinian culture.
Oh, like their art, music, literature, things like that.
Exactly.
Cool.
Poet and activist Remy Kanazi said,
Okay.
"Art is a powerful tool in raising awareness about the Palestinian struggle and connecting people on a human level."
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not just about political action or financial support, but also about recognizing and appreciating the richness of Palestinian culture.
And it goes back to that idea we talked about earlier about the importance of understanding.
Right.
When you connect with a culture through its art, music, and literature,
Mm-hmm.
you gain a deeper understanding of the people and their experiences.
That's for sure.
It builds empathy and breaks down stereotypes.
That's such a good point.
Yeah,
So we've got a lot of different ways to get involved here.
we do.
But what about the big picture?
Okay.
How do we move from individual actions to actually creating systemic change?
Right.
The need for political change?
You're right. That's really the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
And Congresswoman Tlaib addresses this head on, saying,
Okay.
"We must ensure that our elected leaders prioritize justice for Palestinians and work towards a just and lasting solution."
Okay, so how can our listener actually make a difference on that level?
Right.
It can feel so overwhelming to know where to start when it comes to politics.
It can, but there are definitely things you can do.
Like what?
First and foremost, stay informed.
Okay.
Know what bills are being proposed,
Mhm.
what policies are being debated,
Mm-hmm.
both on a national and international level.
Okay.
Don't just read the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
Actually dig in and understand the nuances of the issues.
So it's about going deeper than just surface level awareness,
Exactly.
really becoming knowledgeable about the specific policies being discussed.
And once you're informed,
Yeah.
you can contact your representatives and let them know your stance on these issues.
Right.
Urge them to support policies that promote human rights and a just peace.
That's something anyone can do regardless of their background or how much time they have.
Mm-hmm.
Writing a letter or making a phone call to your elected officials can actually make a difference.
It really can.
Wow.
And there are also organizations dedicated to lobbying for specific policy changes.
Okay.
You can join those groups, support their efforts, and help amplify their message.
It sounds like there is a whole spectrum of ways to get involved politically, from taking individual action to joining larger movements.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you and your level of comfort.
Exactly.
Doing it.
And it's important to remember that political change is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
It takes sustained effort and commitment over time to create real change.
So don't get discouraged if you don't see immediate results.
Right.
The key is to stay engaged for the long haul.
Well said.
Thanks.
And I think what's really inspiring about this deep dive is that we're seeing so many different ways to contribute to that long-term effort.
Yeah.
Whether it's through education, economic choices, raising your voice, supporting humanitarian aid, or engaging in political action.
Mm-hmm.
Each individual effort adds to the collective momentum for change.
I agree. It's like we're weaving together a tapestry of change, and every thread matters.
It is.
So for our listener who may be feeling overwhelmed by all this information, where do they begin?
I think it goes back to that quote we mentioned earlier about choosing not to be neutral.
Right.
The first step is deciding to care, to acknowledge that injustice exists and that you want to be part of the solution.
It's about moving beyond simply feeling sympathy and actually taking action, even if it's just one small step.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once you've made that decision, the next step is finding an avenue that resonates with you.
Okay.
Do you feel drawn to supporting humanitarian efforts?
Yeah.
Are you passionate about raising awareness through art and culture? Do you want to get involved in political advocacy?
Right.
There's no right or wrong answer.
I like that.
It's about finding your place in this tapestry of change making.
So exploring the options.
Right.
Figuring out what aligns with your strengths and interests.
Precisely.
Cool.
And remember, learning and growing is a continuous process.
Uh-huh.
You might start with one form of action and then discover other ways to contribute as you delve deeper into the issues. The key is to stay open, stay curious, and stay committed to the idea that even small actions can make a difference.
This has been such a powerful and informative deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I have a much better understanding of the complexities of the situation and the many ways I can actually make a difference.
Me too.
Yeah.
And what's really exciting is that this is just the beginning.
Right.
There's so much more to learn and explore.
And I know our listeners probably feeling just as inspired, ready to take action and become part of the solution. This has been such an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
Really eye-opening.
It's been great.
And honestly, pretty inspiring.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground.
We have. We've talked about the importance of educating ourselves about the conflict and the different ways our daily choices can have an impact.
That's right. Like everything from the businesses we support to how we use our voices.
Right. And we also touched on the power of art and culture to build empathy and understanding.
Yes.
And how we can advocate for change through political action.
It is a lot to take in.
It is.
But I really hope our listener is walking away from this deep dive.
Yeah.
Not just with information, but with a sense of agency.
Absolutely. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by these global issues,
Yeah.
But I think what we've seen today is that there are steps we can all take to make a difference.
Exactly. And to bring it back to where we started,
Okay.
I want to revisit that powerful quote from Dr. Hatem Bazian.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, he said, "Knowledge is power. And in the case of Palestine, education is resistance."
That quote has really stuck with me throughout this conversation.
Me too. It really makes me wonder what
Yeah.
resonated most with you.
Yeah.
What piece of knowledge are you going to take away from this and turn into action?
That's such a great question for a listener to consider.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to that other powerful quote we mentioned.
Which one?
The one from Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Oh,
He said, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor."
wow.
That's such a powerful statement and so relevant to what we've been discussing.
It is.
It's a call to action, like a reminder that we can't just be passive bystanders when we see injustice,
Absolutely.
It's about asking ourselves, what side do I choose to be on?
Yeah.
And then just as importantly, what am I willing to do about it?
Exactly. It's about taking that knowledge, that passion and responsibility, and channeling it into meaningful action.
So to our listener out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into ways to support the Palestinian people.
Yes, thank you.
We hope this conversation has been informative
And thought-provoking.
and empowering.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep engaging.
Yes.
Your voice matters.
It does.
And even small actions can contribute to creating a more just and equitable world.
And until next time, keep diving deep.